Hey there everyone, I'm meteorologist Cassie Nall, and this is your 10 Weather Impact Recap for the week. Let's start with a look at our top weather stories. Firefighters in Southern California have been battling massive wildfires in Los Angeles County for more than a week. The fires started on January 7th, and with multiple Santa Ana wind events bringing hurricane-force gusts to the drought-stricken area, the fires are continuing to spread. Unfortunately, more than 10,000 structures have been destroyed and at least 24 people have died. Reporter Morgan Chesky has the latest.
Extreme winds whipping up flames in Southern California overnight, sparking a new blaze, the auto fire in Ventura County, burning through brush and forcing evacuation orders. First responders racing to contain it. As across the region, they mount an all-out attack to control the much larger fires that have devastated entire sections of Los Angeles, with those Santa Ana winds ramping back up overnight and due to peak today. 13 million people under red flag warnings. The National Weather Service calling the conditions about as bad as it gets. As investigators search the area looking for a cause, multiple law enforcement sources tell NBC News that an early focus is a possible human cause of the fire, though no conclusions have been reached. A week after the firestorms exploded, homes in the Pacific Palisades burn zone are still smoldering. Crews putting out hotspots here and in Altadena. Officials urging residents to stay out of evacuation zones.
People are saying, I just want to go look at my house and I want to see what's left. We know that, but we have people literally looking for the remains of your neighbors.
As thousands of families search for places to stay, the district attorney is vowing to prosecute illegal price gouging. But realtors and families we met say they're seeing homes go for thousands above asking.
We're going to find a house, I promise. I promise we'll find it.
The Palmentier family, including their pup Apollo, just one of dozens packing an open house in Santa Monica after flames consumed their beloved Palisades home.
Everybody's going to have 100 applications, and they're going to pick one, and hopefully they pick you.
A city on edge, searching for answers, as deadly winds still threaten.
And humans aren't the only ones affected by those wildfires. Dozens of animals are now safe after a special delivery moved them from crowded shelters in Los Angeles to a quieter space in Seattle. Reporter Brady Wakayama was on the tarmac as they arrived Sunday night.
It always makes us feel really great to be able to help, to see them come off the plane. You know, they're not riding first class. You know, we can't wait to get them out of their crates.
And eventually into their forever homes.
Right, got 'em.
With help from Seattle Humane.
When these things happen, we're one of the first shelters to really step up and say, yes, we can.
Taking these 39 dogs and 18 cats from Los Angeles area shelters, currently dealing with overcrowding because of the raging wildfires.
These are pets that were already in the shelter system way before the fires hit. These are pets that have been looking for homes for weeks and months and just weren't able to find them.
Seattle Humane partnered with Paws for Life Canine Rescue and Wings of Rescue, a nonprofit that helped fly these pets from Burbank Airport to Boeing Field Sunday evening.
There's no real competition in animal welfare. We're all in it. We all want to do the same thing, which is to help as many animals as possible, get where they need to be, which is home.
He says Seattle Humane always ensures it has enough room for potential pets being transferred from other shelters, especially ones dealing with natural disasters.
As the Pacific Northwest, we love our animals. They are our family, and they just have a better, higher chance of being adopted a lot faster, and that will make room for a lot more pets that are displaced from the fires to be reunited with their families. It's yours.
On Monday, the shelter will begin checking the animals into its system, hoping these pets will be available for adoption on Tuesday.
So we can fit like these big ones on the sides.
As the shelter continues working with nonprofits and shelters in California, always open to helping animals in need.
We look forward to saying yes again in the future and hoping to bring in even more pets.
Over the weekend, firefighters from Mexico were trained to provide help along the front lines of the California wildfires. 73 firefighters will work alongside local crews, and CAL FIRE says they are thankful for the assistance.
It's extremely important to have the help from our neighbors. Not only do we have Mexico down here, we have the Canada firefighters coming in here today. We have multiple other state entities here. Yesterday we saw Utah, Arizona, Nevada, Wyoming, Montana.
And the threat isn't over yet. Californians are still dealing with strong Santa Ana winds. Firefighters in San Diego are preparing should the danger strike. Jeanette Quezada talked to CAL FIRE to learn more.
As San Diego braces for yet another round of Santa Ana winds, CAL FIRE is ready.
This is CAL FIRE's newest air tanker. This is tanker 122. It's a C-130 air tanker.
This tanker has been involved in firefights across the state. It just returned from its most recent assignment, the Palisades fire. Captain Thomas Voorhees is one of the plane's pilots. He says he gets a different perspective once he's in the air.
We see the progression a lot better of the fire.
During the initial stages of the fire, Captain Cornett says the tanker's proven to be a valuable aerial attack resource. It carries up to 4,000 gallons of retardant that helps slow down the fires while crews on the ground get around it with their hoses and hand line. In addition to preparing with air resources ready to take flight, Captain Cornett says all of San Diego's fire stations are staffed to cover the entire county and maintain 911 services. He says while they're doing their part, San Diegans should be prepared.
Make sure that your go bag and all of your important documents, pictures, anything that you want to take with you if in the case that you have to evacuate is readily accessible so you can put it in your car and leave at a moment's notice.
He says that evacuation plan should also include more than one evacuation route.
The threat is very real. It's here, and now's the time to prepare. You've seen explosive fire growth in LA, and it's only a matter of time that it's going to happen in San Diego. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when.
Right now, air tanker 122 C-130 is at Ramona Air Attack Base, ready and standing by for its next mission.
We've been talking a lot about Santa Ana winds and how they are literally fanning the flames in Southern California. So let's explain where these winds come from and why the setup is so dangerous. Now, they tend to really start to kick up more in late summer and through the fall into the early winter, but realistically they can happen any time of year. And typically Southern California sees anywhere from 3 to more than a dozen Santa Ana wind events each year. Now, typically these wind events last anywhere from 3 to 7 days, but they can last longer than that. And the way this setup happens is that we have a ridge of high pressure up over the Great Basin, the Desert Plateau, over in parts of Nevada and into Utah. The clockwise motion around that ridge brings the air toward the Southern California coast, and with the Sierra Nevada mountains in between where that air is coming from and the ocean, that creates a downsloping motion as that air comes over those mountains. The downsloping motion, it goes through compressional warming. So moving into an area of higher pressure, it dries the air and it warms it as well. So now you've got hot, dry air rushing down toward the ground and down toward the Pacific coast. And then you have that air moving through the canyons that are in and amongst this area, which accelerates those winds even more. And that is how you end up with those gusts of 60 to 80 miles per hour or even higher. In addition to that, Southern California has seen little to no rain in the last 6 months. Drought conditions are expanding in this area, and basically the grass is like kindling. So just the slightest little flame can be fanned by those hurricane force winds, and those fires can spread out of control very, very quickly. We actually have that setup going on right now. This is a look at our water vapor imagery, but I want to widen out that view for you and show you. We've got a ridge of high pressure off to the north that's shifting over to the east. We've got an area of low pressure here over the Four Corners region that's going to be shifting to the east. And with that counterclockwise motion around the low and the clockwise motion around the high, that is funneling the wind right down into Southern California. So unfortunately, it does look like the setup is going to keep those strong winds going for another couple of days. While the West Coast is dealing with dry conditions and extreme fire danger, winter has been in full swing across the rest of the country. Transportation officials closed parts of I-40 in Amarillo, Texas Friday night because multiple drivers were stuck. Heavy snow caused extremely low visibility and slick road conditions. In Kansas, kids enjoyed the snow day. This is video of sledders in Wichita. Laughter filled the air as the kids barreled down the slope with moms and dads looking on. That looks like a lot of fun. And even northeast Mississippi got in on the action. Now, this area doesn't get a lot of snow typically, but this is what Interstate 22 looked like in Tupelo Friday morning, which was much quieter than it normally would be. The same could be said for the city's main shopping district, with many businesses closed down for the snow that was in the area. A lot of people took advantage of the day off from work or school, getting into snowball fights or making snowmen. The main area of low pressure passed to our south, but that same system pushed moisture up from the Gulf of Mexico northward into East Tennessee, where we had plenty of cold air in place. What fell from the sky instantly stuck to the roads, and travel became hazardous very quickly on Friday afternoon as the heaviest snow moved into the area. But wait, there's more. Then a layer of warm air nosed its way in from the south, and many locations saw a switch from snow to sleet to freezing rain, which just added a sheet of ice to the top of the snow. And finally, the cold air then returned as the sun went down, and just as officials were getting things under control, the roads turned back to slush. Now, the good news is that as the sun came up on Saturday morning, East Tennessee looked like a winter wonderland, and folks headed out to their favorite hills to play in the snow. Lakeshore Park in Knoxville was packed with families making memories and enjoying the sunshine. Between sledding and making snowmen, it looks like a lot of people made the most of the wintry weather. The ground is so cold from the chilly temperatures we've had so far this month that the snow is still lingering in some places, despite the sunshine that we've had this week. Now, part of the reason the snow is sticking around for so long is because it was a heavy, wet snow. Meteorologist Tavian Whitehurst explains the difference between a wet and a dry snow.
Discussions from the National Weather Service about the snow back on Friday, January 10th, they mentioned that it had about an 8-to-1 ratio, which is a wetter, stickier snow. So what is a snow ratio? It's basically the way that we talk about the water density and the content of it as we see that snow falling down. So average being about a 10-to-1 ratio, so it means it takes 10 inches to melt down to 1 inch of water in the same sort of beaker. So drier snows are going to have higher numbers. They're a bit lighter, they're fluffier, and so those are going to take a higher number, a greater amount of snow to melt down into that inch. Wetter snows, which is the side that we are towards, are a bit more compact. They're wetter. They may not even be all the way frozen, especially given a lot of times that comes with temperatures that may be around, if not a tad bit above freezing, which is exactly what we saw with this past event. We had that warm, moist air coming in from the Gulf, spreading not just some more of that warmer air into our vertical column, but also giving us a nice little layer of icefall compared to areas that are further off into the north and that are much more likely to just have that dry, cold polar air. So what is the point in the impact of this? Well, the heavier the snow, the greater the impacts of it that we can see. It's not just about it falling on the ground. It could be falling onto power lines. It could be falling onto trees, bringing branches down, or even on your home. You could see damage to your roof and maybe parts of it start to cave or get too wet from so much of that snow, and it's got a certain weight to it. For 12 inches of snow, we could be seeing greater weights here. Even if we cut it down to 6 inches, around 6 inches a pound. So you have to be especially careful. Thankfully, good melting coming as we look to Sunday and Monday.
So there you go. It was a heavy, wet snow, and then it kind of dried out toward the end of the night. But you may also hear us talk about a warm nose of air, adding uncertainty to the snow totals and the precipitation types. So let's break that down. A warm nose is a layer of warm air that can slide up from the south. If this layer is thick enough, it can either partially or completely melt the snowflakes. But if there's a layer of cold air near the ground below that warm air, mixed precipitation can become a problem, just like it did last Friday. This is a skew-T log P diagram, which shows the profile of the atmosphere. So National Weather Service offices release balloons multiple times a day, and as that balloon goes up in the atmosphere, it maps out the temperatures and the pressures that we see. So these are temperature lines right here. So here's the 0 line, that's freezing. So this area is below freezing, this area is above. The red line that you see right here is the air temperature. So here's the ground. You can see how it's below freezing down there at the surface and gets even colder as the balloon starts to rise. But once it hits 900 millibars down there, all of a sudden the temperature starts to warm, and now we're above freezing. That is considered a warm nose because the cold air, the snowflakes falling through that air, will melt briefly and then refreeze before reaching the ground down here. And if you look at the chart, it kind of looks like a nose sticking out. So that's where the idea of the warm nose comes from. It also noses its way up and causes trouble, as I said, with our different precipitation types. Now, we've had below average temperatures every day so far this month. So that warm nose was the only above average temperature that we ended up having. And look at all the blue that we have on the map. We'll continue to add to those blue squares until maybe the end of the week we have a chance of getting back up to average before another Arctic outbreak makes its way down here to the southeast. In fact, the Climate Prediction Center is showing very high confidence in those below average temperatures beginning next Sunday and continuing all the way through next week. In comparison to the temperatures we've already had, these could be even colder. So possibly the coldest temperatures of the season so far, maybe with an extended period of time around or possibly below the freezing mark. So make sure you check back for updates. But if you haven't already winterized your homes, your vehicles and things like that, you may want to go ahead and consider doing that, as even colder air is going to be moving into the region. Now, of course, what everyone wants to know is, well, if it's going to be cold, is it going to snow? We have high confidence in the cold. We have low confidence in the precipitation happening at the same time. In fact, that cold air could be so far to the south that the storm track stays to our south. We'll have to kind of wait and see how that ends up playing out. But looking at your 7-day forecast, the way we see things is mainly dry through the end of the week. Our next system arrives Friday night into the day Saturday, but look at the temperatures by the time that happens. This should be a mainly rain event through the day on Saturday. It's as we get into Sunday and that colder air starts to move in. We'll see if the moisture gets out of here before the cold air arrives, but we may do what we typically do in these situations and see a transition from rain to snow as we go into the day on Sunday. We'll have to give you more updates as we get closer to that time frame. Thanks so much for watching. And remember, you can always get the latest forecast with the 10 News app. It's free to download in the App Store.